Hello and welcome. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha Television. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you, and here are this morning's headlines. State set for the fourth phase of polling in Uttar Pradesh. 53 constituencies across 12 districts to vote on Thursday. Vice President arrives in Uganda for the second leg of two-nation Africa tour. On his last day in Rwanda, he calls terrorism a major hurdle in quest for peace globally. First strategic dialogue between India and China in Beijing today. India's NSG bid and UN ban on Masood Azhar key issues. Foreign Secretary meets top Chinese diplomat Yang Jiechi ahead of the meet. DMK's day-long hunger strike against a trust vote in Tamil Nadu Assembly started today. Party writes to Assembly Secretary seeking no confidence motion against the Speaker. And India beat South Africa by 1 wicket in the final of the ICC Women World Cup qualifier in Colombo. Both teams have already booked their berths in the tournament. Well, let's start the bulletin by taking a look at the news from Assembly poll-bound states. Well, the stage is set for the fourth phase of polling in Uttar Pradesh that will be held on Thursday. Well, 53 constituencies in 12 districts, particularly in the Bundelkhand region, will go to polls tomorrow. Rai Bareli, Allahabad, Jhansi, Chitrakoot, Fatehpur and Pratapgarh are some of the prominent constituencies, with a total of 630 candidates, including 50 women, are in the fray in this phase of elections. In Congress President Sonia Gandhi's constituency, Rai Bareli, party leader Akhilesh Singh's daughter Aditi Singh will be contesting. Well, in the 2012 polls, out of the 53 seats in this phase, Samajwadi Party had won 24, BJP 5, BSP 15, Congress 6 and others 3. Well, in the last year of campaigning, Allahabad was the major centre where BJP President Amit Shah, SP Congress Alliance leaders Akhilesh Yadav and Rahul Gandhi, as well as BJP ally Apna Dal, President Anupriya Patel conducted road shows and also addressed public meetings. And campaigning for the phase 5 of the elections will continue today in Uttar Pradesh. Well, Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav has a string of rallies scheduled for the day. He will address 4 rallies in Bahraich, 2 in Shravasti and 1 in Gonda. Well, the Congress's Ghulam Nabi Azad will also address 2 rallies in Bahraich. Well, remember, voting for the 52 Assembly constituencies in this phase, that is 5th phase, will be held on 27th of February. Well, the Election Commission is all set to conduct free and fair polls in Uttar Pradesh in the 4th phase on 23rd of February. Well, speaking to Rajya Sabha TV, UP Chief Electoral Officer T. Venkatesh said that appropriate action would be taken against all poll illegalities. He also exuded confidence that the 4th phase will witness record voter turnout.
So our preparednesses, we have been preparing for these phases from August in purification of our electoral roll, and now actual phases with regard to the actual preparedness for the poll. One is making all the arrangements, whether it's stationery, the seals, the ink, the first level checking of the electronic voting machines, checking of the VVPATs wherever they are put. In addition, deployment of polling personnel and using computerization and a software so that it is confidential and totally objective. Second is, at the same time, a huge drive of preventive action in terms of arms deposition, catching of illegal arms factory, every day raiding and getting illicit liquor. So all these preventive measures to ensure that on the day 23rd we are prepared for a free, fair and peaceful polling.
Right, sir. In the previous phases, we saw instances of paid news, instances of use of muscle power, money power. How do you plan to avert that now in the 4th phase?
I'll just tell you, for paid news, we have committees at the state level and at the district level, and we have been taking effective action. I would give you a detail what are the actions we have taken at district level and also at the state level.
So how do you plan to motivate the voters to get an impressive voter turnout?
Fortunately for us, in the first 3 phases, results have been very positive, and both in rural and urban areas, we have got good results. Except a few in the western part, Lucknow has got first class. For the first time since independence, it has crossed 60%. So that's a positive sign, and the way percentages are, we are doing well, and definitely we'll keep this in mind for our next 4 phases. We will improve our voter awareness measures, try to focus also on the urban areas.
Tell us about the facilities for differently abled voters.
I would just say, when we started off in August, out of our 14.12 crore voters, we focused as per the Commission's directives on PWDs, the young voters. We got the details from the Welfare Department and ultimately tagged and made a list of 7.91 lakh voters, tagged them exactly which address, which polling station, and we also at the same time sensitized our district administrators to give them facilities, to make a cluster approach, to facilitate them.
Tell us about the security measures in the vulnerable and sensitive pockets.
I would say, without giving the details of the forces, huge deployment of central paramilitary forces, supplemented by our state forces, then also web streaming, supplemented further by micro-observers, static magistrates, and video cameras and use of digital cameras. All this to make it more transparent.
News from poll-bound Manipur now, and political parties of the state on Tuesday met the full bench of the Election Commission, urging it to ensure free and fair elections in the state, which will be held in 2 phases early next month. Now, while the ruling Congress requested more forces in the Naga areas of the hills for people to cast their votes without fear, the opposition BJP expressed dissatisfaction with the preparations of polls and asked the Commission to conduct the polling in a free and fair manner. Well, the Trinamool Congress, which is contesting in 24 seats, accused the Congress party of letting loose a reign of terror. It also charged a section of the police officers with working partially. Well, in an effort to end the crippling 3-month-long blockade in Manipur, now Chief Minister Okram Ibobi Singh on Tuesday said that he was ready for tripartite talks with a united Naga Council. Well, the decision to create 7 new districts in the state by bifurcating the existing ones was not discussed with the UNC. However, Ibobi Singh said that the group had not responded to invitation for talks with the government. Now, refuting Home Minister Rajnath Singh's charge that the blockade is a political conspiracy by the Congress to divert attention from its failures, Ibobi Singh in turn accused the BJP of having an understanding with the UNC. Well, Rajnath Singh had also accused the Congress of not utilizing the forces provided by the centre, to which the Chief Minister said that the state cannot blindly fire at civilians sitting on the highway to lift the blockade, and that it is the centre that needs to take appropriate steps. On to some other news now. Well, Maharashtra voted on Tuesday to decide which party will control the country's richest civic body, the Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation, or the BMC, and 9 other civic bodies. Well, Mumbai registered 55% votes by the close of voting at 5:30 p.m. Now, these polls are being seen as a mini battle with a direct fight between the Shiv Sena and the BJP. Well, Uddhav Thackeray called off his party's 2-decade-old alliance with the BJP, and both sides have since then engaged in a shrill and personal campaign against each other. Well, this is a big test for the Shiv Sena, which has dominated the BMC for 2 decades now. A loss would further dent their image in regional and national politics, where the BJP has turned a senior player. Meanwhile, Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has staked his reputation on the line, claiming that a BJP loss would be his own responsibility. Now, voting was also held for 9 other municipalities in Maharashtra, including Nagpur, Thane, Pune and Nashik, and counting will take place on Thursday.
मतदारांना धन्यवाद देतो आहे आणि त्यांच्याकडनं ज्या उत्सवामध्ये मतदान होतंय मला नक्कीच खात्री आहे आशीर्वाद मिळाल्याशिवाय राहणार नाही.
मुंबई में भी भाजपा को स्पष्ट बहुमत मिलेगा. जनता हमारे साथ है और हमारी जनता से कमिटमेंट है.
कि वे लोग अलग लड़ रहे हैं तो इससे जरूर हमारा फायदा होगा, लेकिन हम खास करके मुंबई करो के लिए क्या है इस चुनाव में, हम वही जनता के सामने रखना चाहते हैं।
आज 10 महानगर पालिकाओं में और 10 जिला पंचायतों में चुनाव चल रहे हैं। मैं तमाम जनता को ये निवेदन करता हूं कि लोकतंत्र में वोटिंग ये आपका अधिकार है और इस अधिकार का उपयोग सभी ने करना चाहिए, इसको कर्तव्य मानकर करना चाहिए।
And Odisha recorded an average of 77% voting on Tuesday amid tight security in the fifth and the final phase of the three-tier panchayat elections in the state. While polling was held in 150 Zilla Parishad constituencies spread over 26 of the 30 districts of the state, while the highest voter turnout of 88% was reported in Subranapur district. The lowest 67% polling was recorded in Ganjam district. The overall polling percentage in the three-tier rural polls in the state stood at 74%. Meanwhile, post-poll violence was reported in some parts of the state. At least 4 policemen were injured and 2 vehicles were damaged when miscreants resorted to stone pelting in a bid to snatch the ballot boxes in the Kendrapara district. And in Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be back with more news.
Is it not embarrassing for you as a very senior leader, like who was projected as a chief ministerial phase, and now you're forced to retract?
Time came when it would be embarrassing for two-party contest jointly and have 2 chief ministerial candidates would be something which is very awkward and odd. So I decided that I would step out.
Is it not a bigger battle for 2019? It's not Rahul, but it's Akhilesh Yadav probably who will be the face of the 2019.
Circumstantially, you cannot predict that this will happen or that will happen. But of course, the media has this habit of being the first to say something.
Watch senior Congress leader and former Chief Minister of Delhi, Sheila Dikshit, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back after the break. Now, Nagaland People's Front President Shurzoli Lizetsu will be sworn in as the state's 11th Chief Minister today. Well, on Monday, Governor P.B. Acharya invited Lizetsu to form the next government after the ruling Democratic Alliance of Nagaland unanimously elected him as the leader of the legislature party. Well, outgoing Chief Minister T.R. Zeliang stepped down on Sunday in the wake of violent protests that broke out when his government wanted to hold municipal elections with 33% reservation for women. News from Chhattisgarh, where 7 Naxals were killed in a fierce gun battle with security forces in the state's Narayanpur district yesterday, where the exchange of fire took place in the forests of Pushpar village of the district. Now, a joint team of District Reserve Group and District Force launched a counter-insurgency operation from Barsur police station of the neighbouring Dantewara district in the morning. Now, when the forces were cordoning off the jungles of Pushpar along with the border of the 2 districts, they came under heavy firing from a group of rebels, leading to a prolonged gunfight. Meanwhile, the forces also made a huge haul of weapons, including 2 12-bore rifles, one 315-bore rifle and one 12-bore pistol from the area.
एक बड़ी मुठभेड़ हुई है और काफी सारे नक्सली मारे गए हैं। 7 डेड बॉडीज जवानों ने बरामद कर ली हैं। 2 इंसास राइफलें भी उनको मिली हैं और भी बहुत सारे वेपन और बहुत सारा सामान है। इस एनकाउंटर में कई बड़े नक्सलियों के भी मारे जाने की संभावना बताई जा रही है।
Now, expressing reservations on global reports linking deaths to air pollution in the country, well, the Environment Ministry has said that a study will soon be conducted by the Health Ministry on the issue. The Environment Ministry, however, admitted that at present it had no data or study by an Indian authority estimating the number of deaths due to air pollution. While interacting with the media, the Environment Minister Anil Dave reiterated that the government is monitoring the trend of various air pollutants across the country under the National Air Quality Program. The monitoring network comprises 680 manual stations spread over 300 cities in 29 states. He informed that the government has embarked upon universalization of BS4 standards by 2017 for all types of vehicles. Well, the Lancet, a UK medical journal, in its recent study had said that air that Indians breathe is turning more toxic by the day, and an average of 2 deaths take place daily due to air pollution.
ना हम उसे इनकरेक्ट कह रहे हैं, ना हम उसे करेक्ट कह रहे हैं, ना हम ऐसा है कि हम उसको संज्ञान में नहीं लेते हैं. हमारे कहने का तात्पर्य केवल इतना है कि केवल उसी को ही सर्टिफिकेट मान लेना, इसके संबंध में थोड़ा सा हम सब लोगों को सोचने की जरूरत है. एयर क्वालिटी मॉनिटरिंग वाला विषय है, इसके अंदर लोकल बॉडीज को एक निर्णायक भूमिका निभाना ही पड़ेगी. केंद्र सरकार इसके अंदर गाइड, फिलोसोफर, मार्गदर्शक, नीति नियामक के रूप में काम कर सकती है.
On to news from Tamil Nadu, where the Madras High Court is slated to hear DMK working president M.K. Stalin's petition against the trust vote held in the assembly last week. Well, the main opposition party in the state has also submitted a letter to the Tamil Nadu Assembly Secretary for a no-confidence motion against its Speaker P. Dhanpal. Well, the party had questioned the Speaker's role during the trust vote on 18th of February that the E.K. Palanisamy faction of the AIDMK had won with a margin of 122 to 11. Well, DMK MLAs were evicted from the assembly ahead of the vote. Well, the party is also slated to hold a day-long hunger strike in protest against the trust vote and the treatment of its leaders in the state assembly. Well, another short break here. We'll be right back.
The splendid, grand and massive neo-Buddhist copper dome of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. It gets its influence from stupa at Sanchi. The dome is more than twice the height of the rest of the building. The reinforced concrete shell of the outer dome began to be formed during the beginning of 1929. The last stone of the dome was laid on April 6, 1929.
Well, Vice President Mohammed Hamid Ansari arrived in Uganda on the last day of his two-nation tour to Africa. Well, he was received at the international airport in the capital, Kampala, by his Ugandan counterpart, Edward Kiwanunka Sekandi. Well, this is the first high-level bilateral visit from the country to Uganda since 1997. Well, today's itinerary includes an official meeting with the President and the Vice President of Uganda and a business event as well. Earlier, before departing for Uganda, the Vice President wrapped up his visit to Rwanda with an address at the University of Rwanda in the capital, Kigali. Well, in his address, Vice President called terrorism a major hurdle in the quest for peace that cannot be justified on any grounds. During his visit to Rwanda, the two sides signed 3 MOUs in the fields of innovation, aviation sectors and visa requirements.
The threat of terrorism has emerged as a major impediment in our quest for peace and prosperity for our people. The spreading tide of terrorism and extremism is a threat that all civilized societies face today. In India, we face the threat from across our borders. Terrorist action and violence cannot be justified on any grounds. We condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations and call for strong and concerted international effort to deal with this menace in a comprehensive manner.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged the United States to keep an open mind on admitting skilled Indian workers in their country. Now, welcoming a team of US congressional delegates to India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi listed the contributions of Indian skilled workers, especially from the IT sector, in scripting the growth story of the United States. Well, this is the first delegation of the US congressman to visit India after Donald Trump formed the government there. Well, Indians are the largest group of recipients of the H-1B visas issued each year to new applicants under a cap mandated by the Congress. The actual number of Indians which are working in the United States under the H-1 visa program is significantly higher.
And our Congress works to advance the interests of our constituents and create jobs in the United States, we know that if it's done right, that can benefit both the United States and India and other countries. But we are, at this point, not in a position to say what some of those new policies will be, because the President, who has made campaign promises, is also now in the process of attempting to turn some of those promises into his own policies.
While we completely acknowledge the right of American Congress and the political leadership to reassess, to reappraise, keep the also fact in mind the kind of value the Indian mind, the Indian talent has contributed in making American companies and American economy more competitive, creating jobs and also creating revenue. And I'm very happy to hear that all the leading congressmen who are great supporters of Indo-US relationship has said that obviously we shall keep and consider that in mind.
And India and China will hold their first reconstituted strategic dialogue in Beijing today, while Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar will attend the first round of talks with China's Executive Vice Foreign Minister Zhang Yisui and other officials. Well, the dialogue comes as the two neighbors battle key differences over Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist Masood Azhar and India's membership of the elite nuclear suppliers group. Well, apart from those two issues, India will also question aspects of China-Pakistan economic corridor, which passes through areas in Kashmir which are claimed by India. Well, Jaishankar is also expected to meet Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi today. Yesterday, Jaishankar held talks with China's top diplomat Yang Jiechi. He made it clear that India wants to maintain its ties with China without making any compromises on the stand on major issues of differences. Meanwhile, China also remained firm on its opposition to impose the UN ban on Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Azhar, saying that it wants solid evidence. It also stuck to its stand on India's admission into the NSG, saying that the group members need to arrive at a consensus. Well, considering the sticking points between the two sides, India and China are geared up for tough negotiations while aiming to ensure that dialogue and consultations are not hampered. And an Indian doctor who was kidnapped by the Islamic State group in Libya has been rescued. Well, he was held captive nearly 18 months back. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj tweeted that Dr. Ramamurthy Kosanam had sustained a bullet injury and is being brought back to India. Well, appreciating the good work of the Indian mission in Libya, Sushma Swaraj informed that the government has now rescued all the 6 people who were held captive in Libya. Remember, in 2016, India had secured the release of 2 other Indian nationals from the captivity of suspected Islamic State fighters. News from the United States now, and President Donald Trump has unveiled plans for a sweeping crackdown on illegal immigrants. Well, on Tuesday, the Trump administration released 2 memos which expand the pool of people which are targeted for detainment and deportation. Well, the memos do not alter U.S. immigration laws, but take a much tougher approach towards enforcing existing measures. Undocumented immigrants arrested for traffic violations or shoplifting will also be targeted, along with those who are convicted of more serious crimes. Well, the new immigration enforcement directives will allow for more deportations than those in place during the Obama administration. Remember, there are an estimated 11 million illegal immigrants in the United States.
This morning, Secretary Kelly and the Department of Homeland Security released memos regarding the implementation of 2 of the President's executive orders that are designed to protect the homeland. These 2 memos provide explicit guidance to DHS staff on how to carry out 2 executive orders signed by the President on January 25th, one dealing with interior enforcement and one dealing with border security. Perhaps most critically, the President is empowering DHS to carry out the immigration laws currently on the books.
On to some sports news now, and this is good news because India beat South Africa by 1 wicket in the final of the ICC Women World Cup Qualifier 2017 at Colombo on Tuesday. Well, India achieved the target of 245 runs on the last ball of the 50th over. Well, for India, Deepti Sharma was the highest scorer with 71 runs, while Mona Meshram made 59 runs, while Harmanpreet Kaur remained unbeaten at 41. Earlier, Rajeshwari Gaikwad claimed 3 wickets, while Shikha Pandey took 2 wickets to help India bowl out to South Africa for 244 in 49.4 overs. Mdu Perez with 40 was the top scorer for South Africa. Well, both teams, however, have already booked their berths in this year's ICC World Cup. India, however, is the only unbeaten team in the tournament.
Cannot come back for second. Poonam Yadav has to cross.
Well, that's it for me and my team in this edition of Breakfast News. Thanks for watching.